It's time for Baby and Toddler Instructions with host Blythe Lipman. Blythe is a nationally renowned infant and toddler expert who has over 30 years' experience helping moms and dads regain their sanity, teaching them how to survive, and giving them the confidence they need to be the best parents ever. From sleeping to crying to potty training to choosing a preschool and so much more. If you're a parent, Baby and Toddler Instructions is the show you've been looking for. Now here's your host, Blythe Lipman.
Well, good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever in the world you might be. Thanks so much for tuning in to Baby and Toddler Instructions today. If you're listening live, it's June 8th, 2016. I can't believe how the month is going so fast. So if you are listening live, you know what that means. You can always call us to say hi. If you have a question during the show for my guest or a comment, love callers. The number here is 877-864-4869. And if you're listening to a podcast, thank you so much. You can always contact me via my website, mybestparentingadvice.com. There is a contact page. Also, if you go to radio, and you will see the drop-down menu that says all the podcasts. So you can listen to everything I've done in the last 7 years. I love my guests, love doing my show. You know, I say that every week, but it's so true. And today I have another great guest that will be with us in just a little bit. Her name is Bernadette Noll, and she's the author of Slow Family Living and her new book, Journal, Look at Us Now. You know, we're going to talk about all the memories and do you record them and how do you make it easy and how do you find time to just have slow, because in our fast-paced world it's not so easy. But, of course, first I have lots of things I need to share. I hate to say it, but this is not a complaint. It's just a share. It was 114 degrees here in Arizona over the weekend. Hot, hot, hot. So I think of it this way. We pretend it's our winter when some of us complain, like the terrible snowstorms other people have. So we'll just figure it's the winter. It's our snowstorm, but not really. But hey, you know what? Wherever you live, as they say, it's a dry heat. Whether you're in the dishwasher or the oven with the humidity, I want to wish everybody a wonderful rest of your spring and upcoming summer. I love the summer. Wish we had a beach here, but anyway, this is not a show about the weather. Recalls. There were some recalls this week, but they did not apply to any baby toddler equipment. If you go to cpsc.gov, you will see the up-to-date recalls for everything that, you know, has been recalled. Also, again, if you go to mybestparentingadvice.com, I have all my recalls up-to-date that do apply, and I have said it every week. If you have something that's been recalled, please, please, please do not try to fix it yourself. They recall it, so the company will either send you a replacement, send you money, whatever they do. So don't try to fix anything yourself if it's been recalled, even though it looks really easy. And what else? Well, I must say something about the loss of Muhammad Ali because, you know, it's been all over the news. Actually, he lived here in Paradise Valley, Arizona, and passed away here. But something just really gets me and gives me the chills every time I see this picture of him as a dad. There's one picture with his daughter, and he's cradling his baby in his arms, and he's looking at his baby daughter. And I'll tell you what, it just warms my heart because then right next to it you see him, you know, with boxing. And it's interesting because we remember him for so many different things, but Father's Day is a week from this Sunday, and you know what? He was a dad too, and besides giving us all kinds of wonderful messages and believing, you know, in great morals. Anyway, it's sad that he passed, but as his family said, he's not in pain anymore, so we can all remember him with a smile on our faces. And to read some of his quotes, they had them in the newspaper the other day. It was so funny, all the things he said. It always made me laugh. So also, I wanted to share these interesting tips. I love Babbel.com, and they have great writers, great bloggers on there. And there was a really interesting little blog. It was the father-child bedtime routines, dad's role in getting baby to sleep. These are some of the reasons. This dad wrote the blog, Tom Matlack, a while ago, with some of the reasons why giving dad bedtime is a good idea. The breakdown. Many times men have a hard time getting in touch with their own intuitive ability to parent, and they're a little nervous. So the feeling of your child cuddling next to you while you read a picture book out loud is enough to soften the hardest heart. Also, the big body. You know, dads, if you watch a dad when he holds a baby, dads like to hold babies in the football way. They kind of put it on their elbow. Anyway, the football hold is big with dads, but they have a bigger body and they feel different to the baby. So over time, this dad realized that having more surface area on which to lay a sleepy head is a big advantage. And if you learn to sway your hips or rock in a chair, a baby will sleep in dad's arms forever, like no place else. Also, kids need alone time with their dads. You know, moms give different gifts, so let dad do the bedtime routine. Doing instead of feeling. As dads, we really like to do stuff and tend to like the structure of routines. At bedtime, there's a lot to be done. Boy, there sure is. The routine is something that we as dads can make up on our own and then hide behind when we aren't ready to feel too much. I thought this was so cute. Oh, yeah, and then the dad goes, yeah, I get it, and he's dripping with tears of joy and love. Also, this is the best part. Mom's tired. Remember, Mom is tired. It's a great time to take over and let Mom. This was really funny. It says, my wife likes to watch The Bachelor while I'm getting my son Cole's PJs on and reading The Gas We Pass, The Story of Farts down the hallway. Isn't that just the perfect book a dad would read with his child? Oh, so a better marriage. You know what? Allowing daddy to bond with your children. He'll love them. You know, he'll love them. You'll love them. Everybody will love each other. Great for the marriage. You give Mom a little break. And I do have to say one thing that I want to add my own tip to this. And, you know, once Bernadette's on the show, maybe she will add to it as well. Dads do things differently. Moms, if dad offers to help with the bedtime routine, I have to say, zip it up. May not be the way. You know, you do it, maybe the baby's pajama pants will be on backwards. Long as the diaper's on, as long as you hear that nice snoring and sleeping and everybody's happy, it doesn't matter. You know what? Everything's perfect the way you do it. So let dad loose, let him do it his way, and you know what? And keep all that love in your house. So on that note, let's see, slow living. Does that ring a bell with anyone? You know, it's a tough one in this day and age. Bernadette Noll has some great ideas, and I'll tell you what, reading her bio, I am already breathing easier. Let me tell you a little bit about her. She's a writer, a maker, a mother, and author of Slow Family Living, 75 Simple Ways to Slow Down, Connect, and Create More Joy, and just released Look at Us Now. It's a creative family journal, and I love it. It's sitting right here on my desk. She was born and raised in New Jersey, has called Austin, Texas her home for the past 25 years, where she lives with her 4 children, ages 9 to 18. Well, you have the whole gamut there without the toddlers and babies. They're grown up. So, Bernadette, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being on this morning. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
Do you have anything to add to the daddy since you have?
Well, I love that, and I really love the idea that, like, yes, they're going to do it a different way, and a different way does not equal a wrong way. You know, sometimes you, as a mom, especially when your kids are little, I think sometimes we have to look away. You know, if you're home a lot with the baby, you have your methods, you have what works, you know what works. And so for the dads sometimes, especially if they're not at home all day, they need to be able to work out their own methods so that they can have their own relationship with their children.
It's so true, and it's funny. As moms, don't go, I told you to do it this way. Because I remember years ago, I would do that. My husband would help me, and I would say, but I told you to do it this way. And there was nothing wrong at all. And, you know, looking back, I think, gosh, why didn't you just say, oh, thank you?
Yeah, I think I remember one time specifically, my husband was taking my toddler then and our baby to the park, and he was walking out empty-handed. And they were all going to the park for, you know, a couple of hours. And I was thinking, what, do you have everything? Do you have anything? What? And he had everything. He had a diaper and some wipes in his back pocket, and everything else he was going to figure out as he went along. And whereas I'm carrying this giant tote bag filled with every possible need that we could possibly have for our outing, he was totally fine with winging it. And so I think it's really hard to let go, and it's really crucial to let go.
Well, isn't it interesting because the baby or the toddler does get exactly what they need without our big bags with everything. The Tylenol. Why do we need Tylenol when we go to the park? Why do we need, why do we need the no syringe? There's so many things. It's interesting. I mean, I get it because I used to drag all that stuff around with me, and I did this for a living. And once I had my own children, it's like, wait, well, you might need this. It's funny because I was posting our show on Facebook this morning, and there was a quote, a friend that's a teacher, and she said why teachers need basements and storage rooms, because we might need something 47 years later for a project. And it really made me laugh because I thought, this is what we do with the kids. We save all this stuff, and it's hard to get rid of it.
Yes. And I also think, like, for me, when I had babies, my go-to was to nurse. If there was baby was crying, the first thing I always would try would be to nurse. And so, but I realized my husband had to have an arsenal of methods, whereas I had this one go-to method all the time. So really trusting them and trusting that they too want what's best for our child.
They do. They absolutely do. And they get it. You know what? And sometimes they're better swaddlers than we are, or they do things differently, and we look, maybe we don't admit it, and we go, yeah, you know what? I never thought of that, but am I going to say, yeah, that's so much better? I don't know if we say that either. With our pride as mothers. We're going to have a commercial break in just a few seconds, our first break. And when we come back, we're going to talk all about what's slow family living and can we actually do it? Because, I think I was looking today, I was making a list of all the things I needed to do today. And I actually stopped for a minute and went, do I really need to do all this? And what happens if I don't do it? And, when you have kids and you work, whether you work or not, how do you find time? And then how do you find time to remember? And I think I especially want to talk to you about the second child or third child or fourth child, because we always go, yeah, we'll remember. But you know what? You don't, and they sure
Well,
did.
and things change all the time when you add another human to the mix.
It sure does. So we will be right back. I am here with Bernadette Noll, author, mother of Slow Family Living, and Look at Us Now, the Great Family Journal. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back with more Help My Baby Came Without Instructions. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet. We'll be right back right after these. In today's business world, a helping hand or idea that doesn't come with an invoice is a treasured find. And if that happens to you, then you need to pay it forward to keep other entrepreneurs from making mistakes or getting a raw deal. It's called Paying It Forward with Josephine Girassi, Wednesday mornings at 10, 9 a.m. Central. Josephine is going to have the guests describe their accomplishments, the lessons they've learned, both good and bad, and then sharing those pieces of knowledge as we create a movement of paying it forward. For more information about Josephine, her business, and background, you can go to mymomknowsbest.com. Josephine Girassi has always been a problem solver. She saw this need and has turned it into a movement. It's Paying It Forward with tips, tools, and advice and hard lessons learned. These pieces of knowledge can make a huge difference for you, your business, and others. So join us for Paying It Forward with Josephine Girassi, Wednesday mornings at 10 a.m., 9 a.m. Central on TogiNet.com.
It's the Fitness Minute with fitness expert Annette Hammond.
Depression is very real and prevalent. It has been said that close to 20% of Americans are likely to suffer major depression at some time. The good news is that exercise helps ease depression and is one of the best ways to fight it. Working out releases endorphins and neurotransmitters that make you feel good. It reduces immune system chemicals that can worsen depression. Exercise also has many emotional and psychological benefits. Working out is a distraction that gets your mind off of negative thoughts and depressing feelings. By focusing on your workout, you can get out of that negative cycle and concentrate on your fitness. By accomplishing exercise goals, you can boost your self-confidence. Getting in shape can make you feel better about your appearance, and that helps too. If you are battling depression, you have even more of a reason to work out. Feeling good awaits you. For the Fitness Minute, I'm Annette Hammond.
Welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet, the hour for all moms with little ones to come for great advice, encouragement, and great ideas for all new parents. Now, back to the show with Blythe Lipman.
Well, welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions. I am here with my wonderful guest, Bernadette Noll. She's a writer, a mother. She's the author of Slow Family Living and this great new journal called Look at Us Now, Creative Family Journal. And I know many of you listening may say, you know what, I got the baby book and I'm writing in it. You should see this journal. And I want to talk about how it applies to all ages, too. It has pictures in it. I mean, I have a bookmark in one page that I love that I want to talk about. One thing we allow that most families don't. I think that's a pretty awesome question and something to write down because we forget. But before the break, I was saying, you know, the first baby, we all know this. We do everything. We write, you know, every night sometimes we write about what the baby did that day and the first words and the funny things. And as they get to be toddlers, and then you have a second baby or a third baby or a fourth baby or however many you have. And I've heard so many parents say, no, I remember that. I even said it myself. And they sort of get a little shortchanged because you think you're going to remember. And then when they're older, they go, Mom, do you remember this? And I hate to say, no, I don't remember. So, Bernadette, you're on.
Yeah, well, I think that was really the big impetus for creating this journal was that I have 4 children, and when my oldest was born, my sister gave me just a blank journal, not a baby book, and I was writing so diligently in her book and writing all of the events. And then as the second one came, I was writing a little bit less, and with each added human to the family, their entries in their journal got less and less. And I thought, oh, I wish I had created a family journal instead of a baby book for each of them, because it was proving next to impossible to keep a book for each of them. So that was really where the idea for Look at Us Now came from. That and the idea, too, that when I look back on my 18-plus years of parenting, every single year has been different than the year prior. And yet when we're in the thick of it, we think, oh, this is how it is and this is how it will always be. But it is constantly and always changing. And so I really wanted to have a place where we could capture some of just where we're at right now without judgment, without any have-tos or shoulds applied to it. Just capture a little emotional snapshot of where we are right now. And in fact, one of my favorite pages in the book is what is everybody doing right this minute? You know, and I entered that just a couple months ago. And already when I look at that, it's like, already there's been change. So really just taking a few minutes to capture it. And hopefully when you're pausing long enough to make an entry in the book, whether you're doing it alone or doing it with your children, like finding a bit of appreciation for the chaos that can ensue in family life.
You know, and I do have to say, as your children get older, they love to look back at things. I mean, my children are in their 30s, and we laugh, and we go and look at pictures. And to look at this journal, I mean, I'm looking at this one page. It has Band-Aids on it. It says, oops, here's a mistake we made recently, and here's how we fixed it. I mean, it's just the pages are black and white. You can use crayons. You can use pencils. You can use markers, whatever you want. And you know, I do need to say this. This is a little different than a baby book. And this, you know, I believe this can go along with a baby book if that's what you like, because they have height, weight, you know, pieces of hair, whatever it is. So to have more.
Yeah. Well, I find it interesting that sometimes those things that we write down in the baby book, like how tall someone was or how much they weighed, it's like it doesn't really capture an emotion. Whereas I really wanted to create something that when you reflected back on what you wrote, whether it be a couple months later or several years down the road, that it would capture some sort of feeling of what was going on. And really, I'm one of 9 children, and my mom says she would do it all over again. She is a great mom, but really also just not judging not judging what is happening right now.
No, I'm leafing through this as you're talking, and everybody should have this book. I mean, the end says 10 things that make us glad we're us. How many times do you sit with your family and even say that? Because there's nothing more important than family.
Yeah, and I think that my other goal with creating this book was that, one, that while you were making entries into the book, if you were doing it as a family, that you would be then creating another moment of connection. So not just in having this home to look back on years from now, but that you would be really creating deeper family connection in the moment that you're filling out the pages. And if you're filling it out by yourself, late at night with a glass of wine after finally everybody's asleep, maybe really giving yourself some breathing room and giving yourself a little pat on the back, maybe looking down at the list of things you did that day and finding some appreciation and value in what you're doing and what you're accomplishing, and looking at your mistakes and laughing instead of judging.
I know, that's great. That's the best advice. And if you have a newborn or if you have a toddler and they don't talk, it doesn't mean you have to do this together. You can do it yourself and write about the family, and you can say the 10 things that make you happy. It can be a you book. But let's move on a little bit, because your other book, Slow Family Living, what does that mean and how can we do this?
So interestingly, I think when people first hear that, sometimes the reaction is, I can't do that. That's too crazy. And if anyone looked into my house, they might feel the same way. I have 3 teenagers and a 9-year-old. But I think for me, I created this whole concept with Terry Conti, who's a PhD who does a lot of parenting work. And for us, when we created this term, it was really about the idea of slow being just time to pause in where you are right now and ask yourself, is what we're doing, is this what we want? Is this working for us? And if the answer is yes, then keep on. But if the answer is no, figuring out ways to make changes so that you can find the connection that you're seeking. So many parents, if you ask parents of whether they have newborns or teenagers or whatever, if you ask them, what is your hope for when your children are grown? The hope is that we will have a deep connection with each other. And that is a pretty universal hope. And so this idea of slow family living is just really simple ways for putting little moments of connection in now so that down the road that connection will exist. It's not about doing nothing. Rather, it's about doing things in a way that really works for you and for your family so that you can have that connection and have that joy. I felt like another message that we get about parenting is that it's this arduous task that we need to get through. And it's like, well, we're creating these humans and we're living with them for many, many years and then hopefully having a lifelong relationship with them. Why would we want to just get through it? How about we find ways to put in little sparks of joy and connection along the way? So slow isn't like backing out and making a garden and living a Luddite lifestyle. Slow is really just pausing long enough to say, is this what we want? Is this working for us? And, asking that continuously.
And you can change it. If something isn't working, there's nothing wrong with changing it. Even though we all get all this advice, I do this and you should try this. And, every family is different. But I do, I was talking to a friend about this the other day, and she said, I have a baby, I have a toddler, and they both go to preschool, and I work and my husband works. And what do you mean slow? How are we supposed to get slower? You know what? I have the baby already for preschool, and they have a poopy diaper, or my toddler won't put her pants on. I said, okay, we're going to ask Bernadette. She's going to tell us.
Yeah. So a lot of times when we're in that kind of crazy chaos, sometimes it's just a matter of adding 5 or 10 more minutes into our schedule. So let's say you have to get up at 6:30 every morning, and every morning is this sort of crazy. Yeah. So maybe instead getting up at 6:25 and having 5 minutes where you can maybe write out 5 appreciations or sit on the edge of your bed and breathe, or maybe waking our kids up 5 or 10 minutes earlier so that we're not in this panicked state of trying to get them out the door. So, and that's another thing. It's like if mornings are a continuous sticky point, then figuring out little tiny ways to make changes. It's like, okay, every morning, Tommy doesn't want to get dressed for school. But we had that scenario, and when we looked at it, we realized, okay, you know what? You sleep in your clean clothes. You take a bath at night, you get dressed for school in the morning. When you wake up, you're dressed. And people thought that was crazy, but you know what? It brought us such calm mornings. So
I'll tell you something. I'll share it. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I'll share something really funny. I used to go to spin class many years ago, and I had my 2 kids, and the class was at 6 o'clock. And I used to sleep in my exercise clothes, exactly what you said. I would be all ready. I'd get up, and then I'd get up, and I'd brush my teeth, and I'd get some water. And I lived in New Jersey where we had a lot of snow, and I'd had to have time to go on the snowy roads. But it was great, and there's nothing wrong with that. If that works for your family, I think, you know what, you have to do what works. But we're going to have a commercial break in just a few seconds. And when we come back, we're going to talk some more about slow living and, what you really can do when things are so hectic. And what about if you're going to have a second baby? Bernadette is going to tell us the top 3 things if you're about to have your second baby. And you know what? You have such great tips. Take a look at her wonderful book, Slow Living, Slow Family Living, and look at us now. I just love this journal. I have to figure out a way how to write in it as a grandma because I'm not all the time. Maybe we need to do a grandma journal next.
Yeah, totally.
That would be really fun. Anyway, the music will be coming. If you have a question, you can call us at 877-864-4869. Love callers, just call and say hi. We will be right back. Please stay with us. Baby and toddler instructions.
We'll be right back with more help. For help, my baby came without instructions. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet. We'll be right back right after these.
Secret Cuisines and Sacred Rituals is a quest, a place, and a feast. Join host Vilasi Venkatachalam every week to explore myths, mystique, old medicine, and brilliant modern solutions through a dazzling kaleidoscope of cuisines, cultures, and cures. This is the place where tribes gather, strangers and familiars, to be memory keepers and makers of our evolving, enduring, evergreen, spoken legacy of wisdom and ingenuity. In Vilasi's words, when we do old things in new ways and new things in old ways, we paint with an inspired palette, weave our own healing traditions, and become our own guru. Vilasi is a troubadour of secret cuisines and sacred rituals. She collects stories of wisdom, ingenuity, and grit. She believes wellness and transformation happen when you stand at the threshold of delight and discovery. She displays her hidden penchant for drama when she leads the safari at the supper club. Her favorite pastime is to extol the marvels of cuisines, cultures, and cures. To her audience in workplaces, seminars, and salons, her mantra is, be your own guru. She is a biochemist, botanist, and alchemist who likes to churn delightful, useful things from a brew of art and science, ancient and evolving, old medicine, and new cures. Join Vilasi every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, only here on the Woohoo Radio Network.
It's the Fitness Minute with fitness expert Annette Hammond.
Most diet soft drinks have 0 calories and are virtually harmless if you drink them on a regular basis. Right? Wrong. The New York Times reports that studies have suggested that diet soft drinks may be linked to type 2 diabetes, abdominal obesity, high blood pressure, and other risk factors. An analysis published in the Journal of General Internal Medicine found that diet and regular soft drink consumption were both associated with a number of risk factors for cardiovascular disease. They state that even after controlling many of those risks, the researchers found that daily consumption of diet soda was still independently associated with an increased risk of stroke, heart attack, and death. Bottom line, omit drinking diet sodas altogether or drink them only on special occasions. I'm Annette Hammond.
Welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet, the hour for all moms with little ones to come for great advice, encouragement, and great ideas for all new parents. Now, back to the show with Blythe Lipman.
Well, welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions. I'm here with my great guest, Bernadette Noll. She's a writer, a mother. She's the author of Slow Family Living and this great new journal called Look at Us Now. Love this journal. It's so much fun. Anyway, before the break, we were talking about families and what they look like and how to make it easier. And Bernadette is going to share. She has 5 tips if you're getting ready to have your second baby.
All right. So I think that when you add the second, it's just such a game changer. But the beauty is that when you have your second, the learning curve is much smaller. Your first one, you're just so nervous and you don't know a lot. So the second one comes and it's a whole different ball game. And one thing that I often tell families when they're adding their second baby is to put up a whiteboard or a chalkboard or a giant piece of paper somewhere in the middle of the house where everyone can see it, where you list everyone on the that's in the family, and I call it the needs board. So mom would have a spot, dad would have a spot, baby would have a spot, the house would have a spot, and under each heading, you put things as you think of them. You put things that you need. You need, the house needs a clean kitchen floor. The baby needs, to be, I don't know what the baby might need to have a little time outside. The mom might need to take a shower. Dad might need to go for a run. Whatever the things are. So you put that up in the middle of the house, and that way, when someone comes in, be it your mother-in-law or your next-door neighbor, and they say to you, "What do you need?" It's so simple to point them to the board and say,
I love
"Okay,
that.
Let me look at what do I need." And because it's also an easier way to ask. Sometimes it's really difficult for us. I think especially as women, it's hard for us sometimes to ask for things that we need. And so maybe our reaction would be, "Oh, no, we're good. We don't need anything." But if someone comes in and asks you that, there's all the needs right there on the board. I need to run to the store and get half and half. Okay, there they are. They can pick one that matches their desire or time frame, whether they have 10 minutes or a whole afternoon. So really use that, especially when there's a second baby, but really all the time, leave that up. It's such a great way to get help and to empower our village. And the other thing I would tell moms, especially around this topic, is when someone comes in, they want to help. They want to do something. So by giving them a task, you're actually contributing to the beautiful ebb and flow of giving and receiving. Giving isn't tit for tat. It's not like, "Oh, you're going to do this for me and I'll do this for you back." Giving is they're going to do something for you. You're going to do something for the baby. So believe in the ebb and flow of giving and receiving and participate fully by asking for things. Especially at that point.
I love it. That's such a good tip because people will always say, "Call me if you need anything." Now, how many times do you call somebody?
Yeah, no, not at all.
You do.
Or we call when we're in a state of desperation.
That's right. Help.
Yeah, but people really, they love, if they're coming in and saying, "What do you need?" they want to be there. They want to participate. So by having this board up, it really makes it easy.
It does make it easy. I think even if you're not welcoming your second child, I think if you have one child, maybe if you have no children and it's just you and your husband.
Right.
Perfect idea. What else?
The other thing I would say, especially as you're awaiting the arrival of your second baby, is as you're walking around the neighborhood, look around for the 9 to 13-year-old age kids that live near you. So especially you'll know the mother's helpers because they might come up to you as you're pushing the stroller through the neighborhood. So really scope out the people right around you. And then when your second baby arrives, you hire one of those children. Usually they're girls, but I don't want to be gender specific. Hire one of those children to come in and play with your toddler for, maybe an hour every Wednesday and Friday afternoon, or just to give yourself a little break, to give your toddler a little one-on-one engagement time, and, to give you time to build a little one-on-one bond with your baby. They usually pretty affordable. You can get them for $3 to $5 an hour is all it takes to get a kid in. I think a lot of times we don't trust that they will have anything to offer at that age, but man, especially when it comes to toddlers, that age group, that 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old, they have so much to offer to a toddler. They can still imagine, they can still play, and they can, make a peanut butter sandwich too.
And they're uninhibited. They're still uninhibited. It's not too many. They're not embarrassed to sing or embarrassed to read or, you get a little older.
Yeah.
Also, I have to say, that's such a great idea. My person was Wendy Severance on Wednesdays, 3 to 5. And I was
right.
home. And you know what? She played with my daughter. And when I had a son, she played with both of them. And I sometimes took a nap, or I just sometimes watched TV. Who knows what I did?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, really giving yourself a little room to do nothing if you want to, or to take a little snooze with your baby. So that is a great resource and largely untapped. I actually teach a workshop for a babysitting workshop. So that's number 2. The other thing I would say is keep it low and slow. And by that I mean when you have a toddler and a baby, their world is primarily way down low. So find ways to get yourself down there. Lay on the grass, lay in the middle of the living room floor, and let them just sort of play around you. They're not needing you necessarily to act out the actions of the Playmobiles or the Calico Critters or the blocks, whatever it is they're doing. But if your physical presence is down there with them, they will feel connected to you and vice versa. And I always say, this is a great way to play with your children when you're so exhausted that you can't even think. If you lay in the middle of the living room floor and you say to your toddler, see if you can roll me across the floor, and you're laying there and just catching a little bit of a rest while your toddler is fully mentally and physically engaged. Find other ways to keep it low and slow.
We used to have this game. This is really pretty funny. My kids used to take all the Afghans and blankets, and I would lay on the floor, and they would cover me up and make a fort out of me. And they didn't know that I had my eyes closed, and I thought, God, this is rest period. This is great. And they did it for so long. So
yes, totally. Putting you in a little chamber, a little sleeping chamber.
Oh my God!
So find as many ways as you can to get down there. And then that's the low part. And the slow part is really looking at, as you were saying earlier, looking at your list of things to do. Sometimes when they're swirling around in our head, they take on magnificent proportions. So write down the list of things that you have to do and find a couple that you can just say, you know what, I'm not going to do that. Find some things that you have on your list that you can either delegate or you can just plain opt out of, just to give yourself a little more space. I think that's it. And the other, go ahead.
Don't you think you find, too, that what you don't do, it doesn't matter? I mean, you look like the next day and go, I didn't really need to do this anyway.
Right, because there's no done. When you're raising children, there's no point where you're sitting in your house and thinking, all right, look at that. I got everything done. It's like there is no done. So sometimes we just have to decide, I'm done. Right now, I am done. So that that spaciousness can really add great value to everyone. I equate it to when you're knocking things off your list. If you're driving across town and you have a meeting to get to, and you've given yourself just enough time to get there, but then you encounter a little bit of traffic, you're kind of a cranky driver. You know, you're not letting people merge in front of you. You might be laying on the horn a little more than usual. You're speeding. Whereas if you give yourself 10 minutes extra to get there or 15 minutes extra to get there, you're waving people in front of you. You're merging beautifully. You're feeling calm. You may be singing along to the radio. I feel like it's the same thing in parenting. It's like if we're trying to fit so much stuff in a small amount of space, so much in a small amount of time, we get angsty. You know, we get cranky.
We do.
So find some ways to give yourself 5 more minutes, 10 more minutes to be amongst your people. I think the driving metaphor is one I really have to remind myself of a lot.
You know, it's so true because I hate to rush. I am not somebody that likes to rush, and I like to be on time. And you were talking before about letting your child sleep in his clothes, so there's more time. I wanted to add something to that. In the morning when there's the crazy rush, if you have toddlers, no matter what age your kids are and everybody's rushing to get out the door, always as a mom, this is my tip, get yourself ready first.
Yeah.
That way you don't have to say, oh, my gosh, I have to comb my hair, I have to do this. Take the extra 10 minutes for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know what? Breathe, you know, whatever you do, but be all dressed and be ready before you wake your kids up. It makes your life so much simpler when you do it that way. And then everybody's kind of calm, or hopefully you're sort of calm. We're going to have another commercial break, and we have to, let's see, where are we going to go? When we come back, I'm going to ask Bernadette her favorite parenting tip, and we are going to continue to talk about how do we find connection in the midst of all the craziness. Because, you know what? Yes, these tips really help, and it's nice to be slower in the morning, but then sometimes you miss the connection, and that's a really important piece too. When everybody's trying to get out the door, it's like next activity. Did you have breakfast? Did you have this? We're all dressed, we're all ready, but what about the kiss goodbye? What about the hug? What about the have a great day? Or whatever it is that works for your family. So the music is coming. Please stay with us. I'm with Bernadette Noll, the author of Slow Family Living. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back with more Help My Baby Came Without Instructions. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet. We'll be right back right after these. Information about book publishing is power. The power to change your authoring life and the power to change the lives of your readers. So join us for Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific. You'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now. As the book shepherd, Dr. Judith Briles is in. And each week, she will include publishing professionals that will reveal tips and secrets to the author's journey. If there is a book in you want to listen, learn, and yes, call in with your questions each week. For more on Judith and what she can do for you, check out her website, thebookshepherd.com. It's Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know, but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by Author You and The Book Shepherd. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific.
It's the Fitness Minute with fitness expert Annette Hammond.
It's a fact that working out for 30 minutes a day will improve your health and make you feel oh so good. But if you are on a quest to lose weight, you should be looking to exercise aerobically for 45 minutes to an hour. I know that may sound daunting, but it's really not. You don't have to kill yourself to keep your heart rate up for 45 to 60 minutes. I know people who put their iPod on and walk for an hour a day. Consequently, they are losing weight, increasing their energy, and feeling great. On the other hand, if you're like me and want to maintain your present weight, then 30 minutes of cardio a day is perfect. The benefits of cardio exercise are vast, and even if you're not trying to lose weight, it is necessary and vital to your health. So schedule in your cardio exercise 6 to 7 days a week and watch your health, energy, and outlook on life improve. I'm Annette Hammond.
Welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet, the hour for all moms with little ones to come for great advice, encouragement, and great ideas for all new parents. Now, back to the show with Blythe Lipman.
Well, welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions. We are up to the last part of our show. It goes so quickly, but, I'm going to have Bernadette come back in the future, and we're going to do a babysitting show, how to hire a babysitter, what you need to know. But we're not doing that today. We're talking about slow living and how to slow down, and we're going to talk about connection in a minute. But first, do you have a favorite parenting tip since you have 4 children?
Yeah, that's so interesting because it's so hard to pick my favorite one. But I think when my daughter, who's my oldest, was born, my sister was joking that after we had dinner one time, and she said, one of my biggest advice for you is don't sweep until the rice dries. And so I looked at her very puzzled because at the time I had no toddlers that were throwing food on the ground yet. And she explained to me that meant, don't force things that if you just wait a little bit of time will actually become easier. If you're sweeping up wet, sticky rice off the ground, it just becomes this big task. But if you wait just a little bit of time until the rice dries, it will just move along so smoothly. So try to look for ways to make the flow a little bit better. But that's just sort of a funny one. But my other one is, and this is a really interesting, it's become one of my mantras, don't sleep until the rice dries. The other one is that eye to eye, heart to heart, skin to skin. It's really amazing how even when we're all living under the same roof and we're talking to each other all the time, it's amazing how many times we are communicating without actually looking at each other. So especially with our toddlers, implement little moments of ritual around all of the things that you have to do anyway. So let's say you're trying to get out the door. Have a little moment. Have a 15-second pause where the two of you stand at the door. You look each other in the eye and you ask a question like, "All right, are we ready? All right, can we do this?" Find little ways to really look each other in the eye. When you're talking to your toddler and you're telling them it's time to get ready for bed, get down there and really capture their gaze. Look at each other in the eye and communicate that way rather than sort of communicating around each other. And I think with our partners too, really finding moments to maintain that big contact, that eye-to-eye contact, the heart-to-heart contact where you just have little moments of where we're going to, these little random hugs, and skin to skin where as you're talking to your toddler, don't just lord above them, but rather, maybe kneel down and grab their hand like, okay, you know what? We're going to leave in 5 minutes. What do you need to do in the next 5 minutes? Look at them, touch them, engage each other so that connection is really felt on a physical level.
I love that tip because sometimes when you just say something to somebody, it doesn't have as much impact as touch does. If you just touch their shoulder, or like you said with your toddler, grab their hand. And what about the teenagers that don't want you touching them? Oh, Mom, get away from me.
Well, so that's a really interesting thing, and I think nowadays, especially when everybody's gaze is often on their device, really putting your device down when you're communicating with your child. Don't just hold your phone in your hand, but really tuck it away and find it's 15 seconds, 10 seconds. I mean, if you hold someone's eye gaze for 10 seconds, that's a really long time to connect. So it doesn't take a lot of time, but it does give you a lot of big connection. Find ways when you're communicating with your child instead of yelling across the room. Find ways to go over to them and really engage their gaze if you can. And yes, they might not want to be touched all the time, but I actually have found you can sneak those little moments in too.
You know, and it's really easy. And I think the more you do it, sometimes the more comfortable everybody gets with it. Also, that could be something you could put in the journal, what you did that made you uncomfortable.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing in Look at Us Now. I did make sure, I really did want to have pages where you could capture some of the things that were difficult, and that hopefully with a little bit of retrospect, we could laugh about them a little bit, or we could at least learn something from
here's
them.
This page
and
I just
without
opened
judgment.
to. I'm sorry. Here's this page
No, that's quite right.
I just opened to. You put a picture of what pet would you want if you could have it. I mean, you can draw in a picture of a pet. It could be an elephant. I love this journal. I just keep going. I know we're going back and forth all over the place, but it all connects. It's all about connection and family and, finding that connection in the middle of the craziness.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is we think that just, people think, oh, well, slow family living, I can't do that. Our lives are too busy. But with slow family living, really what I'm really hoping people get is finding little ways to insert moments of connection throughout the day. Make a list if you need to of ways you can connect in 30 seconds, 5 minutes. If you have a half a day, what can we do to connect in a half a day? And make a list so that you can continuously remind yourself. Maybe it's the difference between when you're picking everybody up at the end of the day to head on home. Maybe you're actually turning the ignition off and you're just leaning over the back seat and saying, looking at everybody and maybe asking some sort of ritualistic question that becomes your family's question, like, all right, give me a high point for today and a low point. And then, of course, this is as your children get a little bit older.
Sure.
But even when you have infants and toddlers, you can find ways to take those 30-second, 1-minute pauses to deepen the connection. And I think the other thing is when you have infants and toddlers, that is the most physically demanding time. So really making sure, too, that you have ways to fill your own cup. I mean, people talk about this all the time. If you're filling everybody else's cup, but you're not filling yours, eventually you're going to run dry. So make a little list of ways that you can fill your cup in 1 minute. One of my favorites when my kids were little was I would walk over to the kitchen sink, I would fill a big glass of water, and I would stand with my, really grounded stance with my feet shoulder width apart and just slowly drink that entire glass of water. It was this sort of it became this sort of meditation, and at the same time I was filling my physical cup as well. So find ways to fill your cup, because if you are pouring out, and not filling your own cup, you will just burn up and run dry.
And literally, because it's interesting. If you're filling your own cup, I love that you could stand for a minute. Everybody has a minute to drink a glass of water. And if you're a breastfeeding mom, it only adds to it to hydrate.
Yeah,
it gives you energy, and it helps your milk production come in, so you have added things besides filling your own cup emotionally and just stopping. Yeah. And get rid of the G word, that guilt word. We all feel guilty.
Yeah, that's really one of my goals with my new book, too. And actually with Slow Family Living also. I wanted to deliver it in a way that felt like a recipe book where you could add your own ingredients rather than more dogma. That's the thing with Slow Family Living is I really want to make sure that it's not just another thing that we should be doing, but rather that here's some ideas, mix in your own ingredients, and come up with the best possible thing that you for your family can possibly come up with.
That's a perfect tip. So tell my listeners where they can get your books.
Okay, so Slow Family Living and Look at Us Now are really available anywhere books are sold. You can get it online at Amazon and Barnes & Noble and even Target online, but lots of bookstores too.
Well, you know what? Thank you so much for being my guest today. I love your books. They're wonderful.
Thank you, Blythe.
I am going to get one of your journals to give to my daughter because we have a 1-year-old grandbaby in the family
nice.
that I'm so in love with. And I want you to come back on the show, and we're going to do a show on finding a babysitter because it's such an important message, and you teach workshops on that. So, again, thank you, Bernadette. You have a great rest of your Wednesday.
Thanks so much, Blythe. And people can look at slowfamilyliving.com if they need a little quick fix online.
Perfect. I'm glad you added that. I will put all your information on my website, mybestparentingadvice.com. So you have a great day.
Thanks, Blythe. You too. Really appreciate it.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow, what great tips. You know, everything is so hectic. We do run, and just a glass of water takes 2 seconds. That's a great tip. I love it. So next week, my guest will be a surprise, but lots of fun. So mark your calendar, June 15th, 11 o'clock Eastern, and tell all your friends to tune in to Baby and Toddler Instructions and all the other great shows on TogiNet.com. We always have so much fun. Also, please like my pages on Facebook, Baby Instructions and My Best Parenting Advice. I'm on Pinterest and LinkedIn. I do Periscopes and my books. Help My Baby Came Without Instructions, more Help My Baby Came Without Instructions, and Help My Toddler Came Without Instructions. Please, sorry the phone's ringing in the office. I didn't pull the line out. Anyway, those books make great gifts for this time of year, especially a lot of babies are being born. So great shower gifts, great if you have a toddler. So that's mybestparentingadvice.com. You can also find all my books on Amazon.com. And let's see, we're almost up to the end of the show. So you know I always like to end with a little humor. These are some reimagined quotes by parents, and these really crack me up. If you love something, set it free by Sherry Lynn Kenyon. If you love something, hide it from the kids, from parents. The only thing you have to fear is fear itself, from Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Parents say the only thing to fear is a skipped nap. And finally, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, a proverb from parents. The road to hell is paved with goldfish crackers, iPhones, and minions. That's what the parents say. So, I just love these quotes, and we all have our own. If you have a favorite parenting tip, please send it to me at mybestparentingadvice.com or on one of my Facebook, instant message me. I want to thank you all for tuning in. You have a great rest of the week, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.